Akaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Harinam Chintamani series, Saturday and Sunday. Today we are a little late to begin, sorry for that. So yesterday we were discussing the various misconceptions with respect to demigod worship. And we dealt with mainly 4 misconceptions with respect to demigod worship. So I will just briefly recap on that, and then we will continue with the verses of Sri Harinam Chintamani. After explaining the Vishnu Tattva, Shiva Tattva, and the Jiva Tattva based on the qualities, the first misconception is that the demigod is absolute truth, or equating the demigods with Vishnu. This we dealt, and then demigods is one among many gods with no one as the supreme, and we worship the demigods thinking that ultimately Vishnu is all pervading and Vishnu also resides in the demigods, so we can worship Vishnu through the demigods. And Krishna condemns this. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhurev cha na tu mam abhijananti tatvenantas chavanti te. They fall down. This is an indirect worship. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, avidi purvakam. And then we saw the next misconception was with the Kali Yuga, a Mayavadi theory, which is like ultimately there is Brahman, and Brahman has these 5 aspects. the philosophized Vishnu with Shaiva, Dhanapatya, Saurya, and Shakta. So yesterday we had quite a elaborate discussion on this Panch Upasana, which was actually introduced by Sankaracharya. But this theory is there since the dawn of creation, but it was systemized by Shankaracharya. We saw the concept of Pancha Upasana. So this is improper conduct that all devas and Vishnu are worshipped as temporary measures until we meditate on the impersonal. So this was the fourth misconception which we dealt yesterday. And yesterday we finished up till text 34. Not 34. We finished up till 28, sorry. We finished till 28. The right understanding in two verses, 27 and 28, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives that each of the demigods can only give specific boon, whereas the Vishnu can grant all boons and is the protector and maintainer of all. And that is why understanding that we should worship Vishnu. And this Siddhant is given by Sukdev Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Akama sarva kama mokshava moksha kama udarvi tivrena bhakti yogena yajanti purusha param. Tivrena bhakti yogena. So this we discussed yesterday. Now let us go to text 29 onwards. So text 29 till text 32. Having understood this, the position of the demigods and how we should directly worship Vishnu, what a Grahastha Vaishnava should do. This has been explained from a very Varnashram perspective, where in India, this whole culture, if you even go today, even to the Vedic temples, there will be the Supreme Personality of Godhead worshipped in the form of Vishnu, along with many other demigod temples, especially in Jagannath Puri. So in that context, what a Grahastha Vaishnava should do, having understood this knowledge, what he has spoken in the previous verses, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about that from 29 to 32. Grahastha hoye Vishnu bhakta hoye sarva karya Krishna puje chadiya samshay. A Grahastha who is devotee of Lord Vishnu, Grahastha hai Vishnu bhakta hoye, should unhesitantly worship Lord Vishnu with his every deed. Sarva karya Krishna puja chadiya samshay. With all, unhesitantly, he should worship Vishnu in his every deed. Nishekadi smashananta samskarayata tahate pujiye Krishna Veda mantra mata. Chanting Vedic mantras in various rituals, samskar, beginning with Garbhadan samskar and ending with cremation ground. Nishek adi samshan anta samskaryata. So the samskars in Vedic terminology means impressions, where we imprint impressions on the jiva, spiritual impressions. And these impressions are imprinted right before the conception. There is the Garbhadan Samskar. Garbhadan Samskar begins before the conception of the child, where there is purification both by the husband and the wife taken up. And then the child is impregnated, the seed is impregnated in the womb. So it all begins with Garbhadan Samskars. And ultimately, the child is born, and there are many samskars when the child is born. There is a Namkaran Samskar, there is a Karna Bhed Samskar, There is the Annaprashan Samskar, so many samskars. All these samskars are meant to imprint spiritual impressions on the child so that he can take up spirituality. Ultimately, it ends with the samshan samsars, that is samskars, that is at the time of death. So right from birth to death, if you see the whole Vedic process is the process of samskars, imprinting impressions. So there are many, many samskars mentioned in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. And especially in the beginning days of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was implementing ISKCON. He was focused in establishing the Hare Krishna movement. And he recommended his Grahastha disciples that before conceiving, you can chant 64 rounds for many days. And then he had given some standard rules and regulations. But later on, as now time is passing, the need for implementing these samskars has become prominent. Although that is Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas, but still it is part of the Vedas. So Srila Jiva Goswami, not only Srila Jiva Goswami, not Srila Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he has written a lot about these samskars in his books. And there is a book called as the 10 Samskar, Dashavidhi Samskars. And even Sanatan Goswami also in his Hari Bhakti Vilas has given these same samskars which are there in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas, and how that can be done by the Vaishnava devotees. The Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas is basically the Smartas who follow, but how the Vaishnavas should do all these samskars in relationship to Vishnu by chanting the Vedic mantras, means by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So all this samskars when we are doing, when the family buys a new house, there is a Vastu Graha Pravesh, and then there is so many other rituals which are done. So all that activities, all these have to be followed, but based on the teachings of Sanatan Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas and Gopal Bhatta Goswami in his Sat Kriya Deepika, and various other books also there. Now today ISKCON is more and more trying to study these books and trying to implement so that all these traditional samskar purificatory activities from a Vaishnava context can be implemented. They should all worship Vishnu. Tahate Pujita Krishna. They should worship Vishnu in all these samskars with Veda mantras. And Veda mantras now can also mean chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra also, accompanied by the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So even Srila Prabhupada, when he was taking sannyas, this is the Vedic ritual, and the sannyas yajna is done, and so many other rituals are done. And Prabhupada in the background was telling Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that's how it has to be coupled with. Srila Prabhupada, when he opened the Krishna Balram Mandir, because he wanted to establish how even the Krishna Balram Mandir is a bona fide and authentic temple, so he called the Vedic Brahmanas for the deity installation, which was not necessary. Prabhupada, just by doing the Abhishek and inviting the lordships to come and reside in the deities will be installed. That is Pran-Pratishtha for us. But still, Prabhupada called the Vedic Brahmanas and did a huge ceremony so that the public opinion will be favorable. But at the same time, he told the devotees to also chant, do Hare Krishna Kirtan. That is a real installation, he said. So all this has to be implemented right from Garbhadan till the death, Samshan, Ante. Vishnu Vaishnavara Puja Vedete Vidhana Deva Pitra Gane Krishna Nirmalya Pradhana following the commands of the Vedas, Vedeta Vidhana, he should worship Lord Vishnu and the Vaishnavas. Vishnu Vaishnavara Puja. You should worship Vishnu and the Vaishnavas. To the demigods and pitas, he should offer the remnants of what he has offered to Vishnu. Deva Pitra Gane Krishna Nirmalya Pradhan. So how now the Devatas, which is part of the whole system, how the Vaishnavas should worship. First, they should worship Vishnu and the Vaishnavas, and the Nirmalya or the remnants should be offered to the demigods. Mayavadi mate pitra shraddha ekare yeva anya deva puje aparade mare. Persons who in their worship of the demigods and offerings of Shraddha to the Pitas follow the ideas of Mayavadi, perish because of their offense. So this Mayavad idea, I explained this Panch Upasana, So that kind of conception, with that conception, if you do worship the demigods and offer the Shraddha and the other rituals with this Mayavadi conception, then they will perish because of their aparad. So the right conception and the right worship has to be very, very clear. And that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is given that right understanding, right conception and the right worship. And what is the wrong conception and what is the right understanding also he has spoken. Vishnu Tattve Dvaita Buddhi Nama Aparad Say aparade tara hoy bhakti bad. Thinking that the demigods are independent of Lord Vishnu. Vishnu Tattve Dvait, independent. They commit the offense of the holy name, Nama Parad. By that offense, their progress in devotional service is blocked. Say aparad tara hoy bhakti bad. So there are two things in this verse, if you have seen. The second offense, there is two aspects in it. One is that you can see here, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Vishnu to be equal. This is one kind of offense. Or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu, or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. So that aspect Bhaktivinoda Thakur is dealing now in text 33. In text 33, he is speaking about it. Thinking that the demigods are independent of Lord Vishnu, they commit an offense to the holy name. By that offense, the progress of devotional service is blocked. Okay, there is one question. Let us take it up. Yes, Prabhuji. I have unmuted it. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, my question is with reference to this verse 31. Is it necessary to offer the Nirmalya to demigods and Pitrus?
Okay. With respect to this verse 31, is it necessary to offer the Nirmalya to the demigods and the Pitras? Now, many of the devotees in ISKCON today who have come, they have not come from a traditional, cultural, religious background, you can say, in one sense. Although India is more religious, but it is more like a materialistically religious. They are not coming from a traditional background where, their family members might be worshipping their Kula Devata, some demigod, and they might be following all the traditional rules, like offering Shraddha ceremonies, worshipping the Pitras and worshipping the demigods. All this on a regular basis, they might not worshipping. And from that background, if somebody has come and he has now taken up to Vaishnavism and understanding the Tattva, he has taken up to the chanting of the holy name, then suddenly telling him to give up that, because for so many years, from so long, the tradition is being followed in his family, If suddenly he leaves, then that can hamper many things. Firstly, his family people will become against it. The society will, start thinking that he's become fanatic. So many things can happen. If you have understood the tattva and he balances it by, also doing these other things as what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is recommending, then it is fine. This is on a regular basis what I'm mentioning. If there is some demigod, which is being worshipped in their family tradition for so long, and then suddenly he comes and tells home, oh, Vishnu is supreme, all the demigods are servants, we should not worship Vishnu, we should not worship the demigod separately, although he's speaking tattva, but suddenly for them to change that faith by one preaching, it will not happen. So the family members might continue to doing that, and then he's part of the family. At that time, it is necessary, and this is the way as Bhaktivinoda Thakur is recommending. Then, secondly, in the Shraddha ceremonies, how will we do? It is very important that the Shraddha ceremonies are performed by the Vaishnavas to their forefathers, and especially in the family there is some death, then we have to do all the rituals that has to be done in a Vaishnava way. So in the Shraddha ceremonies, there might be some other demigod which is being worshipped by the pujaris there. So then how do we do? Then we'll have to also tell to keep the photo of Vishnu and then do the actual worship to Vishnu and offer the tarpan to the nirmale to the demigod. So that's how all these aspects, how we should do in a traditional context. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us the right way and right understanding here in these verses. I know one devotee who's from South India, and he told me when his father left, they did all the Shraddha ceremonies, and according to their tradition, every month the Shraddha ceremony was done for 1 year. And then after that, every year, he goes home to do this ceremony. So that was their tradition. And that's how, he made sure that there is bhoga done, the offering is done for Vishnu, and then it is done to the Devatas. So like that, we'll have to take care of it. It is very, very important that this is the right way it should be done. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining that. I hope it is clear, Prabhuji.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions anyone has? Okay. So then, so if you think demigods are independent of Lord Vishnu, then you commit another offense, and by which what happens? The progress is blocked. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains what is the right understanding. What is the right understanding? Shivadi Devata Gane Pratak Ishwar Manile Nam Aprad Hoya Bhayankar. Persons who think that the demigods headed by Shiva and are controllers independent of Lord Vishnu commit a fearful offense. Bhayankar. They are Pratak Ishwar. They are independent Ishwars, independent controllers. Shivadi Devata. Then they commit a Namaprad to Vishnu. So here is a footnote. People who thinking Vishnu is one god, Shiva and the other demigods are other gods, worship the demigods thinking them as equal gods, commit an offense to the holy name. So Vishnu is one god, Shiva is one god, Ganesh is one god. They're all different gods. They're all, and they, what? When they have this kind of conception, then they commit a very serious offense. Now, next point is very important for us to understand. Other people who thinking the demigod are Vishnu's Gunavatars or Vishnu's servants appointed to specific post, worship the demigods, do not commit an offense to the holy name. The demigods are Lord Vishnu's potency. They get their powers from him. They have no power independently. So this is the right understanding. If we have this right understanding, what others is being spoken, then if with this understanding we are worshipping the demigods, having the right understanding that they are Vishnu's servants, they are the Vishnu's vibhutis, and we worship them with this right knowledge, then it is not an offense. Now, I will give you two examples from the Srimad Bhagavatam where this kind of understanding which two pure devotees did, and it was not aparadh, not the second offense. The first is Maharaj Parikshit. In the second canto, it is mentioned that Maharaj Parikshit followed all the karma kanda rituals of worshipping all the demigods. Now it is strange. Maharaj Parikshit was a pure devotee since birth. So why would Maharaj Parikshit perform karma kanda rituals for the demigods? He performed them in order to set an example to the praja, because all the praja were not at the level of Mahabhagavats who were worshipping only Vishnu. So to lead the praja towards dharma, he also performed many yagyas for the devatas. And all the praja is to participate in it, and ultimately everyone was taken towards dharma. So while he was worshipping the demigods, his understanding was what? The demigods are Vishnu's servants. They are appointed in that specific post. And he was ultimately, in his consciousness, was very clear. And he was considering that these demigods are the limb of Vishnu. So actually, he was directly doing worship of Vishnu, although there was the demigod yagya happening there. Another example is of Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj also was a great king, and he also had to do various yagyas for the demigods, but again to lead the praja. And the right conception and understanding he had that, and that's why he worshipped them as the limbs of Vishnu, as the servants of Vishnu. So his pure devotion did not get obstructed. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. Karma avrita. With karma, our bhakti can get avrit. So because he had this right understanding, that the bhakti did not become covered. So these are the two examples. So not just the external worship, it matters, but the internal conception, with what conception you worship. And that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur discusses this different conceptions which we discussed yesterday and in the last class. So the right conception he's explaining us. So this is two important examples which I spoke have to be clearly understood. There's another question by Maya Narasimha Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is in reference to Karmakanda section, Prabhu. So in the Karmakanda section, people worship demigods, but they will not worship generally with an idea that they are servants of Vishnu. So then their worship is an offense. Then how they can gradually elevate themselves if Karmakanda is meant for elevation?
Okay. Now those who are following the Karmakanda path, for them, worship of the demigods will slowly purify them. And ultimately, the whole system of demigod worship Krishna has given, that is to show his compassion to the fallen souls. Ultimately, they come in the fold of the Vedas. They come in the house of Vedas. And slowly, from demigod worship, ultimately they should come to Vishnu worship. And that happens in a gradual process. But here we are speaking about from the Vaishnava perspective, those who have understood the Vaishnava perspective, from that perspective we are speaking. So that is a complete different scenario where those who are impelled by their desires, by their nature, and they follow the Vedas and worship particular demigods to fulfill their desires, they are gradually getting elevated. And they might get elevated to the heavenly planets also. And this is gradual progression ultimately, so that they one day come to understanding the supreme truth. So that is a long process. And ultimately, we see many examples of how demigod worshippers getting elevated to the right understanding that the Vishnu is absolute truth. Chandidas was a worshipper of Kali, and ultimately he got the mercy of his brother who was a Vaishnava and Kali, and he understood that Vishnu is supreme, and he became a great devotee of Lord Krishna. And in fact, he composed beautiful songs. Nimbarkacharya was worshipping Shiva, and then he was directed to Vishnu. And Keshav Kashmiri, his worshipable deity was Saraswati. Saraswati revealed to him that my Lord is Krishna, and then he became a great devotee of Krishna. So demigod worship is taking us to a higher elevation, but not the highest. So, but if we remain there, then that is still we remain in the darkest region of the material world. So from demigod worship, ultimately one should go to the worship of Krishna. So it is a stepping stone. So like that, we should see that. Is it
Prabhuji,
clear?
yes, Prabhu, thank you, Prabhu. Adding to this, Prabhu, Prabhu, we see other religions like Christianity and Islam. So they don't have the scope of having separate way of coming upward. They have exclusively Supreme as the object for everything. So in our system, this kind of elaborate arrangement is there. And at the same time, it is causing so much disturbance and chaos because of confusion. Whereas in other religions, they have only one. So either it is material or spiritual. So how we look at those religions, because they say that they are the latest, therefore they are the best.
Yes, this is one of the arguments which is presented, and Prabhupada spoke about it, that in the Abrahamic religions, there is only Christianity, there is Jesus, or it is Allah. We have only one God. And in your Vedic culture, you have many gods, many gods. So, it's not so clear. So Prabhupada was asked, which is better in the non-Abrahamic religions, they worship at least that one God, but here in the Vedic tradition, there are so many gods, demigods. Which is better? Prabhupada said, those who worship the demigods. Why? Because at least they are in the house of the Vedas. Just like in a kingdom, the king has his fort, and within the fort, there are many palaces of the ministers, and then there is a king's palace. So somebody who takes up to demigod worship by following the Vedas, he is entering inside the fort, and he is now under some minister. Krishna's minister only he is under. Ultimately, he is worshipping the minister, but as he elevates himself, he understands, oh, minister is also the servant of the king. And slowly he might come to the worship of the king. So there is that, more likelihood happening. So those who follow the path of the Vedas are more fortunate. Because they have entered the kingdom already. They have entered the kingdom. They are inside the kingdom. They're inside the fort, and ultimately they will reach to the king one day. But those who are following the Abrahamic religions, who are worshipping, they are still outside the fort. For them, there is no hope as such. So that is the comparison between the two. This is the first point. The second point, we should understand that the system of demigod worship shows Krishna's non-enviness and compassionate nature. Krishna is like the millions and millions of mothers, and the jivas have unlimited desires. And because they have these unlimited desires, and they want to fulfill their desires through these different devatas who can fulfill those desires. And Krishna has accommodated all of them by giving the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. So Krishna says, although you are my part and parcel, no, but I don't want to worship you. I have this desire. I want to worship this demigod. Krishna is very accommodative. He says, yes, okay, worship him. That is his non-envious nature, Krishna's, and his compassionate nature by giving the whole system of demigod worship. So the Vedas, in one sense, many say that they are polytheistic. They are not polytheistic, they are monotheistic, or to be more specific, they are bi-monotheistic, worship of Radha and Krishna, in fact. So the Vedas only proclaim one God, in fact, that the Supreme is Vishnu. And there is a hierarchy. There is a hierarchy in that. And that hierarchy is, the worship of demigods, slowly, ultimately, because the demigods also worship Vishnu for them. So that is how the Vedic teaching is. It's not polytheistic, but it is monotheistic. Okay, so the next verse, after explaining this, now Bhaktivinoda Thakur so one who thinks they are independent controllers, he commits this offense. So 34 and 35 spoke about not only thinking the demigods equal, but independent. So we coupled that second aspect, Vaishnava, the second approach. Now he explains in text 35. Vishnu Shakti Para Shakti Hoite Devayata Bhinna Shakti Siddha Nai Vedera Sammata. The demigods are manifested from Lord Vishnu's superior potency, Vishnu Shakti, Parashakti. The Vedas never say they are independent of him. Bhinna Shakti Siddha Nai Vedera Sammata. Vedas say that they are not separate. They are part of Vishnu's potency only. They are part of the vibhutis of the Lord. They derive their Shakti from the Lord. And Krishna in the 7th chapter makes it clear. Kamasya ritagyana prapadyante anya devta. Those who surrender to his other demigods, thinking that they are supreme. And then Krishna in the next few verses explains that they faith what is required to worship their demigods. I only give that faith. Tasya achalam shraddham mayeva vihitan hitan. Sataya shraddha yukta tasya aradam ihate labachete tata kaman mayeva vihitan hitan. That whatever desires they get fulfilled through this demigod worship, these boons are actually not given by the demigods, but they are given by me. Because the demigods derive their powers from Vishnu. So this is the right understanding which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving here. Shiva Brahma Ganapati Surya Dikapala Krishna Shakti Balite Ishvara Chirakalaye. It is because Lord Krishna has given them the power that Shiva, Brahma, Ganesh, Surya and the Dikpals have been controllers from ancient times. So the power also comes from Krishna. So this is how we should understand. Because they are Ritagyana, I think that these demigods have powers by which I can get my desires fulfilled. But they don't know that these powers are coming from Krishna. If they knew that, then why would they worship the demigods? Because Krishna is the source of all powers. Do you think that what the demigods cannot give, Krishna can't give? If all the power is coming from Krishna, then why do we worship the demigods? Sometimes, many times, devotees, after also practicing Krishna consciousness for many years, sometimes in the family they might not have children, or the children might have some health problem, and then they consult the chart, and in the chart it is mentioned that maybe there is Navagraha dosh, so you worship this demigod. and they actually go and worship the demigod. That is because they don't have sambandha gyan, clear knowledge that this Navagraha dosh or whatever dosh is there, that this demigod is powerful to eliminate it and not Krishna is not powerful. So this knowledge they don't have, and they might take up to demigod worship, and that time when they do it, it actually constitutes aparadh. Actually, whatever troubles, whatever obstacles, whatever sufferings a devotee is facing in his practice of Krishna consciousness, it is directly under the control of Krishna, and it is meant for our purification, and we should stick to exclusive devotion to Krishna. This is very important for us. Then he concludes in 2 verses. Athaiva pareshvara ekamatra jani arasab deve tanra shakti madhe gani. Therefore, Athaiva, I know that Lord Krishna is the only supreme controller. Pareshvara ekamatra jani. I count the demigods among Lord Krishna's potencies. Arasab deva tanra shakti madhe gani. So they are all Krishna's potencies. They are all Krishna's vibhutis. Athaiva sakarya karma jada bhava chadiya grahastha paya bhaktira sadabhava. Therefore, Athaiva, turning away from the idea that his true duty is material in nature. Karma jada bhava. A grahastha should act in the spirit of devotional service. So in this right understanding, a grahastha should worship Vishnu. That is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining. Now, text 39 to 41, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions how does a Vaishnava follow grahastha dharma now. Bhaktira sadbhave thaki satkriya karane deva pitra gane tushe nirmalya arpane. Thinking them as devotional service. Bhaktira sadbhave. He performs the various rituals and samskars. Thake shat kriya karane. Karane means to do. Shat kriya. I told you Shat kriya Deepika is there. By offering them the remnants of what was offered to Lord Krishna, he pleases the demigods and the pitas. Deva pitra gane tushe nirmalya arpane. So he worships Vishnu only or Krishna, and he offers the remnants to the demigods. So all that activity, what he is doing, is completely devotional. It's completely devotional, and it is not becoming avrit. Avrit, his devotion is not getting avrit. Jnana karmadi anavritam, as it is mentioned. It doesn't get avrit. If he does all this in bhakti bhava, bhakti sadbhava, with this right knowledge, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has spoken. Bahu deva devi puja karibe varjan, Krishna bhakta boli sabe karibe tarpan. He avoids worshipping the many demigods, many goddesses, because they are all devotees of Lord Krishna. They are satisfied with all his actions. So all the demigods are also devotees of Krishna. They might be Mishra Bhaktas or whatever it is, but still they are devotees of Lord Krishna. They are servants of Krishna. And that is why by worshipping exclusively Krishna, even they are also satisfied by his actions. That's why in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami says, Ekala Ishwara Krishna Arasaba Bhrat. Ishwar is only Krishna and all others are servants beginning from Shiva. Shri Krishna Vaishava Charane Sarva Phala Pai Name Aparadha Nahi Sada Nama Gai. By worshipping Lord Krishna, Krishna Vaishnava Archana, he attains all benefits. Sarva Phala Pai. He does not commit offenses to the holy name and always chants the holy name. So by this understanding, he doesn't commit the second offense and he is able to chant. So for one to chant incessantly or Kirtaniya Sadahari, one of the things that blocks is aparadh. So when we don't commit aparadh, the more we don't commit aparadh, the more we can chant incessantly the holy names. Text 42. There's only one verse in this. Earning one's livelihood by working within the institution of the four varnas. Jagate manavagana varma dharma achari karibeke jivana yatra dharma patadhari. Human beings who are in this material world, Jagata manavagana, follow the deities of varnas, walk on the path of piety. Varma dharma achari. In their journey carrying this material body. Karibe jivana yatra. Jivana yatra. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.8, it is mentioned Sharira Yatra, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is using the word Jivan Yatra, Dharma Pata Dhari. They follow the path of Dharma or the path of piety. As long as the material body is there, from the birth till the death, this is also a Yatra. There is a footnote here, very interesting footnote. During his stay in the material body, in the material world, the soul should follow the Varnashram institution. That institution is the eternal religion, Sanatan Dharma. The Varnas were established by great sages in the Holy Land of India. If they are present in other countries, they are not in their original pure form, although in some form they are widespread at the present time. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one thing we should understand here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote this book in the mid-18th century. And in the mid-18th century, still the remnants of the Varnashram Dharma was there. And still till then, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had not established the Daivi Varnashram also. So even for those audience during his time, he's speaking about it. And Varnashram, in one sense, Gurukul education was there even in the 19th century, up till the 19th century end also, even with the beginning of 20th century also, Gurukul education was there. Practically, the society was still intact. And although it was highly corrupted with the beginning of Kali Yuga and in the last 1,000 years, but it was there. And this Varnashram system is a perfect vehicle for one. Prabhupada explains that this whole Varnashram Dharma, where there is purificatory processes from Garbhadan till the death, all these purificatory processes is a perfect process by which a crude person, Prabhupada says a crude person, can be turned into a pure devotee. And just like, the iron ore is extracted or the mineral is extracted from earth and it goes through the manufacturing process, and then the actual metal in its pure form is extracted through the manufacturing process. Similarly, a crude person through the process of Varnashram is turned into a pure devotee. So the best way is through the Varnashram system. And that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making this point. Now, in today's context as devotees, how do we see this? Now, those who are grahasthas, they are in that varna. And they should follow the grahastha dharma, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught to his grahastha disciples. That is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. For those who are brahmacharis and the vanaprasthas and the sannyasis, they are called as grahatyagis, more or less renounced. They have to follow their dharma based on what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given instructions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's how we should see that Varna Dharma in the form of Daivi Varnashram, what is the teaching based on the Vaishnava teaching, from the Vaishnava perspective. Those who have already taken to Vaishnavism, but we are not transcended the three modes. A Vaishnava actually, in a very specific sense, means one who is beyond the three modes, one who is transcendentally situated, one who is a Paramhamsa. So we have our conditioned nature, and how this conditioned nature now we should dovetail in Krishna consciousness. This teachings are given both by Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That is for us to follow. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking from that perspective. And Prabhupada also in his lectures, if you see, everywhere in the world, you can see that there are people who are intellectual class, people who are of the administrative class, people who are of the mercantile class, and people who are of the labor class. This is the terms he used. And these divisions are all over the world. Now, in foreign countries, there is no concept of varnashram. Nobody knows that somebody is Brahmanical by nature. So that's why Prabhupada used the term intellectual class. Many have administrative abilities. So they are the Kshatriyas. Many are good in business. So they are the mercantile class. They are the Vaishyas. So this is some or the other way, these four classes of people are spread all over the world. And in its pure original form, it is not present in other countries. And today it is not present in our country also. Without first accepting the divisions of varnas, divisions that correspond to different natures of different human beings, one cannot attain perfection. Gradually becoming fortunate, the outcast, Antyaja, and the persons of mixed birth, Varna Sankara, may become sinless, act purely, and enter Krishna's family. These rules are eternal. Chaturvarne Maya Shishtam, Guna Karma Vibhagasha, as Krishna says. This is set up by Krishna. And slowly, how they can follow their particular dharma and ultimately get purified. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has introduced the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, where even one who is an outcast, Swapacha, he can get purified. But he should follow his duties, some menial service by which he can, practice the chanting of Hare Krishna. Jagai and Madai were the most sinful, and Mahaprabhu delivered them. But we don't hear Jagai and Madai actually engaged in preaching Mahaprabhu's message. They are like forefront preachers. It was Haridas Thakur and Nityanand Prabhu, or the 6 Goswamis. So this is how we should understand in today's context. What Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking is from the Varnashram context, so that we should be very, very clear about it. So 2 verses also speak about how the others, what are the rules for the others who are outside the Varnashram. Antejara Vidhi, rules for persons outside Varnashram. Sankara Anteja Save Teji Nicha Dharma Shudrachara Kare Sada Samsare Karma. Outcast persons, Anteja. Outcast means they are out of the Varnashram system. And persons of mixed birth, Varna Sankara, should renounce all degraded activities and accept the role of Shudras in this material world. So they should give up all their sinful activities and come within the fold of the Varnashram. That's what he's saying. Sankaranteja thakibe Shudra achare Chaturvarnya vina dharma nahike samsare. Outcast and persons of mixed birth should accept the roles of Shudras. They should take the Shudrachare, because without the 4 Varnas, one cannot be pious in the world of birth and death. Chatur Varna Vina Dharma Nahike Samsare. So without these 4 Varnas, one cannot, first one has to become pious. And only one is pious, then he can take up to devotional service. So that is the point from the Varnashram perspective, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining. Now the next theme, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks from 45 to 52. We will just take a few more minutes because we started a little late. Earning his livelihood by working within the institution of the 4 Varnas, a resident of the world of birth death can walk to the path of devotional service. how now being situated in this varnashram, the cycle of birth and death, he can walk to the path of pure devotional service is mentioned. Text 45. Chaturvarnya varna dharme karibe samsara shuddha Krishna bhakti bole hobe sadachar. In this world of birth and death, one should follow the system of 4 varnas. Chatur varna dharme karibe samsara. Act righteously, sadachar, and purely serve Lord Krishna. So as I was explaining, for us as Vaishnavas, if somebody is a Grahastha, what is the Grahastha dharma? Maybe he might not identify himself as, maybe he's a businessman, he'll not identify himself as a Vaishya and do Krishi, Gro Raksha, Vanijam, the Vaishya dharma. Somebody who is Kshatriya by nature, he's not following his Kshatriya dharma and he's referring to the Kshatriya dharma shastras. No, they are all practicing Vaishnavism. They have their natures, and according to their nature, they are dovetailing their natures in Krishna's service, and they will follow what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed to his disciples in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that is how we should understand from the Vaishnava perspective. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining from the Varna perspective, from the Varnashram perspective. Chatur Varna Yadyapi Shri Krishna Nahi Bhaje Varna Dharma Achare Thaki Rauravete Maje. If one follows the 4 Varnas but does not worship Lord Krishna, he will be thrown into hell. So if one just practices his Varna Dharma and not his Dharma of the soul, that is pure devotional service to Krishna, then all his following of Varnashram Dharma is simply what? Shrama evahi kevalam, as in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned. Varna vina grahastera nahi ara dharma varma dharma achare grahastera sabha karma. Outside the rules of Varna, a grahastha should do nothing. All the grahastha's duties are within the Varnas. Now here again, from the Varnashram perspective, for us as Vaishnavas, what is our duty? Our duty is, as Satyaraj Das asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are Grahastha Vaishnavas, what should we do? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed that you should chant Hare Krishna and serve the Vaishnavas. That is the Grahastha duty, serve the Vaishnavas, serve the sannyasis. So for us, we'll have to follow Rupa Goswami's instructions in Sadhana Bhakti and the duties, what he has assigned to us, the angas of Sadhana Bhakti, and the Grahasthas have to serve the other Vaishnavas, sannyasis, and that will be their duty from the Gaudiya or the Vaishnava perspective. Varna dharme e samsar nirva karibe yavad artha parigarahe Shri Krishna bajibe. In this world, one should follow the duties of Varnas and also worship Krishna. So we have our nature, conditioned nature, and that conditioned nature, we cannot just immediately give up. And that's why we use that in Krishna's service. Somebody is a Vaishya, he's into agriculture. From the Varnashram perspective, I'm speaking now. He cannot give that up, but he should worship Vishnu. And now in today's context, somebody is also a businessman and he cannot give up that nature. He cannot give that business nature and immediately come and take the renounced order, join the ashram or take sannyas. No, he will engage his business nature in doing his business, and whatever money he gets, he uses directly that in Krishna's service in order to build a temple or to propagate preaching. So that is how he is now practicing Krishna consciousness. So that is how we should see this verse. Nisargate vidhi vadya ye paryanta nara varna dharma swanirvaha karibe adara. And he must respect and follow these rules as long as he has not come to the platform where the rules hamper his progress in worshipping Krishna. So as long as that conditioned nature is there, he should follow these rules. And for us, as long as we have not crossed Anarth Nivritti and we have developed spontaneous attraction to the Brajvasis, that means we start practicing Raganuga Bhakti, we should follow Vaidhi Bhakti rules. So that is how we should understand this verse, text 49. Till when we should follow the Vaidhi Bhakti rules? We should do Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti as long as we have not developed spontaneous attraction to Brajvasi, that intense greed has not come. And when that intense greed, lobha comes, automatically we are impelled to practice devotion following the Brajvasis. They are Ragatmika Bhaktas and we follow them. We are Raganuga Bhaktas and we can give up the rules. The rules now will hamper us. So till then, actually at the stage of Nishtha, one is a self-realized soul. So one has gone beyond the conditionings. And that is why it will not affect him. So that is how we should understand this from the sadhana bhakti perspective. Bhakti yoga name ei tattva nirupana bhakti yoge bhauday siddhanta vachana. This is called bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotional service. By practicing bhakti yoga, at the end one finds that ecstatic love, bhava for Lord Krishna arises within him. This is the conclusion of scriptures. So with practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, when he attains greed, he takes up to Raganuga Bhakti. He is now not controlled by the rules and regulations. He is impelled by Rag. And then with Raganuga Bhakti, he will attain Bhava Bhakti. And this is how he will attain Bhakti Yoga. Bhavuday vidira pravritti nahi roy, bhavudita karya deha yatra siddha hoy. When ecstatic for Lord Krishna arises, there is no need to follow the many rules and regulations. So when we attain Bhava Bhakti, at that stage in Bhava Bhakti, our both subtle and gross bodies are destroyed. Destroyed means it is there, but it is completely purified and our Swarupa is revealed. When this ecstatic love arises, the soul's journey in the vehicle of the material body is successful. So now he has attained his spiritual body now. He knows his Swarupa and what his rasa is with relation to Krishna. So when he attains Bhava Bhakti, Grihi Vaishnavara ei Advaya Sadhana Shri Vishnu Advait Tattva Dvaita Nivartana. In this way, a Grihastha Vaishnava attains the Supreme, who is non-different from his name. He meets Lord Vishnu, who is not different from his name. So that is how a Grihastha Vaishnava takes his journey from his conditioned state by following the rules and slowly attains to this higher state and ultimately attains perfection where he can give up the rules when he attains Bhava Bhakti. So that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained till text 52. So the remaining are quite simple now. That we will take up in the next week classes. There is one question here. Yes, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. I have unmuted you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This was a question which is bothering from a couple of months after started attending your session, Prabhu. First place, you said that Varnashrama is not at all existing in the current scenario. But again, it is so much re-emphasized that to practice bhakti also, we must situate ourselves in the Varnashrama, though it may not be existing in its pure form. Because if you do not engage according to your psychophysical nature, then you cannot be stable in your practice of bhakti. And
Correct.
unless you are not reached the state of ruchi, as it is said that tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyete yavata matkada shravana adavva shraddha yavanna jayate. So as also we heard from the devotees that until unless you do not come to the state of ruchi, you should not give up your prescribed duties. But in between you made a statement that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking here in point of view of Varnashrama, but we are following Rupa Goswami's advice. What you are exactly referring, Prabhuji, when you are saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is referring
No.
something else?
1 minute. When you quoted this Tavat Karmena Kurvita Shraddha Yavana Jayate, that is a wrong verse you are quoting in this context here. There it mentions somebody who is doing his Varnashram duties and he's following his karma. He's doing his karma according to his Swabhav in the Varnashram. When he develops Shraddha, pure faith in pure devotion service, till then he has to do his Varnashram duties. When pure faith awakens, then he can take up to pure devotional service practice. So that is that verse from the Uddhav Gita. You are getting confused between the two.
Okay,
Now, for us as devotees, for us coming in the association of pure devotees, we have developed pure faith. That pure faith is the faith of the soul now. And the soul's activity is bhakti, and that is the Navavida bhakti or the sadhana bhakti and the 64 limbs of bhakti, which we are doing. But we have our conditioned nature, which is we call as Prabhupada calls as psychophysical nature. And this psychophysical nature we have. And because based on that nature, we do some activity, like somebody is a businessman, somebody is a scientist, or somebody is a, administrator. So all that nature, we engage our conditioned nature in doing work for maintaining our family. And we somehow dovetail it in Krishna's service. That's what we are doing now. We don't identify ourselves, oh, he is a Kshatriya Vaishnava, he is a Vaishya Vaishnava, Brahmana Vaishnava, he's a Shudra Vaishnava. No. Our all identification is that we are all Vaishnavas we are practicing Vaishnava Dharma. But the nature what we have, we are dovetailing. That is the point what I was explaining to you. We dovetail that nature in Krishna service. And we are doing our constitutional activities, that is hearing and chanting. Now, slowly by practicing more the constitutional activities, our conditionings, we become free slowly. And this happens with Anarth Nivritti happening. And once we cross Anarth Nivritti and come to the stage of Nishtha, practically that conditioning nature is destroyed. We are free from the conditionings. And at the stage of Nishtha, one is a self-realized soul, in fact. And then slowly from there, he can go to higher stages of Ruchi Asakti, where his conditioning nature is not troubling him. And at the stage of Bhava, his conditionings are completely, the gross and subtle coverings completely destroyed only. So that is how I explained it. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining it from a Varnashram perspective, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote those books during that time. And how that we have to understand in today's time, I am explaining from again Chaitanya Charitamrita teachings and Rupa Goswami's teachings. I hope it is clear.
Okay, Prabhu. So I understood is that this exactly it is not possible what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said. So we have little different version because the scenario is different. That's what you are saying, Prabhuji.
No, his teachings remain the same, but see, now Varnashram is not there. But you know that I am of an intellectual nature. I need some intellectual engagement. As a Grahastha, I need some intellectual engagement. And I'm doing that kind of a job. Now, I'm not a Brahmana from the Varnashram perspective, where I'm doing Patan, Yajan, Yajan, and also doing Vishnu worship. But now I'm an intellectual. So in that sense, I'm a Brahmana. I'm engaged in some research work, and I'm doing that because of my conditioned nature, and also practicing core activities of pure devotional service. And using intellectual nature in doing also some Shastric study and preaching, and whatever I'm earning, I'm offering that to Krishna. So that's how we are doing in today's context. Is it clear now?
Thank you very, very much, Prabhu. It is very clear now. It has
Yes.
given a lot of hope.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Harinam Chintamani ki jai. Hare Krishna.